Livingston,
Josiah JP.
can you mind Livingston?
Josiah JP.
I and I hear la la la.
Josiah JP.
I and I hear la la la.
Josiah JP.
Don't mind Livingston.
Josiah JP.
Don't mind Livingston.
Josiah JP.
I and I hear la la la.
Josiah JP.
I and I hear la la la.
Josiah JP.
Going down Bayman Road, going down Bayman Road, going down Bayman Road. I can't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Going down Harrow Road, going down Robinson Road, going down Carmichael Road. I can't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Bullfrog dressed up in soldier clothes went to the river just to shoot some crows. Crows smell fire and they all fly away, Lord. Bullfrog get vexed and he cry all day.
Born in 1906, said this country I must fix. Married a lady looked so fine, named Lady Caroline. 1936, he entered Bahamian politics. Said my people is in a tight, I must fight for human rights. He was a freedom fighter. Oh, he was kind of big in structure. The first Bahamian governor, his name was Milo Butler. He was a freedom fighter. Oh, he was kind of big in structure. The first Bahamian governor, his name was Milo Butler. He was a freedom fighter. Oh, he was kind of big in structure. The first Bahamian governor, his name was Milo Butler.
Today is a good day. Let us pray. Oh, gracious God, our Father, we thank you for this day which you have made. Father, we thank you for health and strength, and we thank you that you are the God who imbue in us wisdom and inspiration and talents. And we thank you, Father, for our brother Keith, whom you have given the inspiration to write such a wonderful book. Father, we pray that all who read it may be inspired by it, may get a deeper understanding of the history of trade unions. Father, we pray that this book will be allowed in all of our schools so that Bahamians may understand the crucial nature of trade unions and the impact they have had on our social fabric and on our history. We bless our brother Keith, we bless his wife and his son and his family, and we bless all who are here, and we place them all into your care. This we pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I invite you now to please stand as we sing our national anthem, following which I'm going to say a few words, and then the moderator will take over from there. We have a moderator, right? Good, wonderful. Dennis Hanna, okay.
Through love and unity. pledge my allegiance to the flag and to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, for which it stands, one people united in love and service.
Amen. Please be seated. For a few minutes, I wish to share with you a few remarks. So, again, I wish to congratulate my cousin Keith on writing such a necessary and important book on trade unions and workers' organization in the Bahamas. I believe that this is a bold step for Keith, as he has written on a subject that is often overlooked since 1967, and since that time, not much has been written about trade unions. For far too long, our people have not been aware of the origins of trade unions, the necessity of trade unions, and the significant role they played in the fight for majority rule. This book, then, and others like it, creates the academic framework for educating our people on the subject. In addition to fighting for majority rule, trade unions played a crucial role in lobbying for workers' rights and improving our standard of living. They have a rich history in representing our workers, and as such, they cover almost every sector of our economy. To this end, they have constantly challenged the government to enact laws to protect and improve the wages of workers. Although trade unions have faced challenges over the years, they remain an important factor for workers' rights, social justice, and the need to constantly uplift our workers economically towards social policies and reforms and towards a sustainable workforce. According to the Department of Labor, there are 23 trade unions representing 23,000 workers. In truth, these trade unions represent all of us. The first trade union established in the Bahamas was the Bahamas Public Service Union in 1948. This union was formed in response to poor working conditions and low wages in the public sector. The following year, the Bahamas Federation of Union was formed, representing the Bahamas Industrial Union, the Bahamas Hotel and Catering Union, along with a few other unions. Sir Randall Fox is considered the father of trade unions, as it is believed that he, as a politician and a lawyer, began the significant work to establish the first trade union. His work played a significant role in changing the course of our history, both politically, socially, and in almost every aspect of our progressive movement, especially in the area of labor relations. Each year, we celebrate Labor Day, which was established in 1956. However, it wasn't until 1961 that it became a public holiday, becoming a fitting memorial to the workers of this Commonwealth who sacrificed so much to establish us as a sovereign and independent nation. During the movement for political reform in the 50s and 60s, the opposition and the unions worked together for both political reforms and workers' rights. And my age, the people in my age can tell you that during that time, we had the Boy Scouts, we had the Boys Brigade, we had the Girl Scouts, and we had all these other civic organizations involved in the Labor Day celebration. Now it seems to be a problem. It has become political. In the 1970s and 80s, the relationship between the government and the unions was fraught with strikes and industrial actions. This continues to this day. As our country has faced economic challenges, especially here in Grand Bahama, the impact through the loss of jobs and wages and wage stagnation has made it difficult for unions to negotiate better wages and benefits for workers. This also makes it difficult for unions to provide support and services to support their membership, especially the smaller unions. Personally, I believe that there is a need for reform when it comes to labor laws, especially dispute resolutions, to make it easier for employees and employers to resolve labor issues. We shouldn't have to go to the employees and employers should be able to resolve their issues. In my business, it's like a family. I make certain that I treat my workers like families. I make certain that they're happy. I watch them. If they have a need, they come to me. And it's been very few times that we've had to go to the Labor Department to resolve a dispute. And Mr. Brown can tell you, he's never seen me there to resolve no dispute. Right, Mr. Brown? Tell the truth. Yeah, I'm going to finish and say, I encourage unions to continue to be a vital force for social and economic justice in this country. Thank you, and good evening.
The moderator did such an excellent job pronouncing the names of all the persons presenting, an excellent job on describing the origin and the journey of unions, but he failed in introducing the moderator. But I forgive you. We're not going to be here long. Mr. Barr told me that we have to be short, concise, and precise. You know, he's a teacher, so I'm going to follow. Protocol being established, I would like to say good evening again to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Distinction Publishing Book presents a pre-Labor Day event, a book launch and book signing reception. Book title, Trade Unions, Workers' Organization in the Bahamas. The origin, national contributions, and challenges. Are they relevant today? I can guarantee you those questions will be comprehensively answered. We will begin with a poem on the labor movement in the Bahamas by Mr. Rodney Bethel, principal of Maurice Moore Primary School.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. First, I want to congratulate Mr. Barr on his bold step and wonderful accomplishment launching your book this evening. Let's give Mr. Barr a round of applause. When Mr. Barr called, I said to Mr. Barr, some of the things I might say might offend some people, but tonight the intention is not to offend, but hopefully we can see some improvement. In a popular song in the living years, performed by Mike and the Mechanics, the first stanza begins, and I quote, "Every generation blames the one before. In all of their frustrations, come beating on your door." End of quote. It is my view that every generation should thank the one before, for it is upon the foundation of previous generations that we now stand. And there is no exception when it comes to the labor movement in the Bahamas. A poem on labor unions. Laborers have united as early as 1942, when during the Burma Road riot, they demanded their due. These workers band together for a common cause. As this unity and oneness somehow being lost, we saw the strength of unity again in 1958 when the general strike made the government contemplate. Sir Clifford Darling and the boys were on the same page. Can our leaders of today stand on the same stage? Sir Randall Fox had the formula, the strategy and skill to unite the people, make the ones in charge see their will. The workers willingly followed because they were aware that their leaders' goals were common. There was no fear. Now, fittingly, the father of labor, he is hailed. For his people, he sacrificed, even ending up in jail. His courage and fortitude cannot be questioned, for workers' newest agenda was aimed at their protection. Through our history, names like Thomas Bastian, Leo Douglas, and Pat Bain directed hotel workers to a place where they could sustain. Uri Balfour Bodie, a Union warrior, as we all can recall, spoke out against injustice, demanded equality for all. In education, stalwarts like Mabel Walker and Ivy Dumont made sure educators' needs were at the forefront. Leonard Archer, Kingsley Black, are names we revere. They fought for justice, equality, and all that is fair. Unions in the past had noble goals and objectives in their sight. Improved working conditions, our country's development, and the workers' rights. They sought the advancement of the common man, and they spread this gospel throughout Bahama land. What about the union leaders of today? They get more coverage and have lots to say. But are they a united front? Do they work together? Do they cooperate, collaborate for things to get better? Labor Days have experienced separate marches and rallies. What is this division and dissension about? Employers realize unions are not definitely as strong when leaders under the same umbrella cannot even get along. Solidarity forever was the mantra, the cry once used. It appears today unions are too splintered with differing views. It seems personalities are too busy trying to make scores, more than about building opportunities and opening some doors. Current leaders must put aside the diversion and deflection and focus on ensuring the workers' protection. They must boldly and forcefully step up to the plate to organize, negotiate, strategize, and advocate. Perhaps present leaders must do some introspection and decide if unions are headed in the right direction, where principles are utmost and no one is seeking position, where unity demonstrates strength and not continuous division. Yes, unions are still vital. They play a significant role in ensuring the members' grievances are addressed and told. But to John Q. Public, they must have a stronger impact. And to move forward, they may need to take a glance back. The time has come for egos to be put aside. More love for the members must be burning inside. Workers' rights must not be sacrificed because of leaders' aspirations. They should be the ones giving workers hope and inspiration. United we stand, divided we fall. The success of our country depends on us all. Solidarity must be the focus, the North Star and goal. Leaders must be knowledgeable, visionary, and bold. So there is much heavy lifting still to be done. But first, the unions must be all for one. The attitude that pervades trade unionism must come to an end. There are many imperfections that we must amend. The good news is that many good leaders remain in the fight. Many are still determined to get the ship right. Let's get on a stable path where members are assured, their rights are preserved, and future secured. I look forward to solidarity being the aim once more. It is then when our unions will see ascension and soar. It is then when progress will be evident and surely be seen. It is then we will realize Sir Randall Folk's dream.
You embody the word unity. That was beautiful. Beautiful. I can say one thing about the event tonight is that because of this launch by Keith, I see unity. I see various unions represented here, educators represented here, family represented here, friends represented. And to quote Dr. Zeus, oh, the places we can go if we unify. It's limitless. Excellent. Now presenting a perspective on labor administration is Mr. Harcourt Brown, retired Director of Labor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Barr for the invite, and I also want to say that he has been very, very persistent from the time he first started on this journey to create something that has caused all of us our eyes to open and to realize the work, the hard work, and the value of trade unions in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This is an example of the level of democracy that we enjoy in this country. Please, let's not take it for granted. It's extremely important. It is extremely important. When we look at what's happening today, there should be no discussion and no division as regards to what you, as trade union leaders, ought to be doing come Labor Day. This is not something that is dictated by governments. No government, no administration should be dictating what is to occur on Labor Day. And trade union leaders need to recognize that Labor Day is for the workers. It's for the members. It's for those people on the ground that keep this country going every single day. And so they ought to always be celebrated. It's extremely important. They ought to always be celebrated. The trade union movement, like Pastor Lewis has indicated, has put majority rule on its back and walked out into the open with it. Much of what was accomplished in this country by way of majority rule could not have taken place without all of the other attendant activities that took place in the trade union movement. So much so that the Sambailo Butler was one of the first ministers of labor. And Sir Clifford Darling came right up behind. Hard worker, right out from the trenches with the taxi drivers. And then you look to Sir Clement Maynard, who was also very, very, very active in the trade union movement. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And so kudos to the trade union movement. Kudos to the presidents and leaders that have gone on before. My only regret is that by now the trade union movement in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas really and truly should have had some measurement or some celebratory recognition for the hard work, some Hall of Fame for the trade union leaders that have gone on before, on whose backs we all stand. Okay? And a couple names were mentioned, Thomas Bastian. But even before him, Bartholomew, and the likes of a Huey Balfour Bodie. There are going to be generations. In fact, there are generations now. If you walk right into any of the high schools now and ask them who Huey Bodie was, many of these people didn't get any financial reward. They weren't checking for that. They only knew that when they looked at their members, they looked in their eyes, they saw the pain, that something had to be done. And so they stood up. And they're still doing it to this day. And so there must be some measure, some way that we can recognize the hard work. If we fail to do it, and this is something I've advocated from years ago, if we fail to do it, then we lose, because the younger people are going to look and they're going to say, but wait a minute. I don't know these people because their work has not been recognized by the country, by their peers. Okay? And so there's no monument, there's nothing to indicate who these people were. My God, the only people that could ever be recognized must be politicians. Okay? I remember I was sitting in a meeting with Pat Bain, the late Pat Bain, one time. And I think it might have been, I can't remember who the prime minister would have been at the time. It might have been Hubert Ingram. And there was a dispute going on between the hotel union and the hotel owners and operators. And I remember the representative for the government at that time, the Minister of Labor, might have been, no. You know, so it was Pete. It was Pete. So it was Perry Christie, the Honorable Perry Christie. And Vincent Pete said, well, you know, I have a mandate from the cabinet to do this and do that and do this and do that. And Pat Bain said, yeah, but I have a mandate from my constituents too. And my constituents are them same hotel workers you see out there now. Okay? And he drew the line right down the middle. He said, Mr. Minister, with the greatest respect, if we don't get what we have earned and worked hard for, we are going to shut the country down. And yes, that's a threat that trade unions make from time to time. And it's sad when they have to go to that extent. Because over the years, you've had some really, really stubborn people. Okay? But fortunately, you had the likes of a Pat Bain, the likes of a Leo Douglas, the likes of a Lionel Morley, and others who carried the banner in the hotel union movement. Okay? And so, yes, when you ask the question, are trade unions still relevant to this day? Yes, they are. There is a new normal, though. The younger people demand a whole lot more than some of the older folk. And so trade unions have had to adjust and they've had to adapt. They've had to come to terms with the fact that these young people today live in a technological age. And so you have to meet them where they are. But I would also venture to say that the trade union movement has been responsible for perhaps the most robust amount of training in the workforce, in the world of work in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas throughout the years. If you know the amount of training that has taken place in the workforce that has been spearheaded by the trade unions, look at the credit unions that they have established. Look at the various businesses that they've put together to benefit their members. Okay? And so, yes, the government right now, I just received something from the Labor Department recently where they are contemplating amending the labor legislation. And there are a number of proposals that are currently on the table. If you haven't seen it, it's available on the website. You need to go there and you need to take a look. You need to familiarize yourself with what is being said. Yes, it's come out of the tripartite council, and yes, you have representation on that council. But as an individual Bahamian, we ought to know what is being debated, what is being discussed at that level. It's too late after it becomes law to say, oh, this is hurting me, or this is hindering me, or this is hampering me. Okay, and so that's available to you to go onto the website and take a look. And if you don't get it that way, then I'd be happy to provide you with a copy electronically. I'll just need your email, Brother Barr. I can do that as well, and I make that available to you so that you can see what is being proposed. There are a series of pieces of legislation that are currently up for consideration. Okay? So thank you so very much. Like I said, I can be very short like I am. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you again, Brother Barr. And let's have a good time.
I think you were correct on being brief and short. However, you contradict yourself because your message was so comprehensive and complex, it's very tall. One thing you said that I think is paramount, that a lot of workers and a lot of businesses take for granted, is staff needs to be trained. If you don't train them, if you don't move with the times, like you said, the technological age, then it's all for nothing. You can have the best staff, but if they're not trained and then they're not guided, then it all goes awry. So, excellent point. With that, moving right along, Mr. Barr, I'm not going to extend that. So, we'll now have a number of labor leaders from various unions presenting brief remarks on the relevancy of unions today in the Bahamas. We'll begin with Mr. Leslie Lightburn, former secretary, former vice president, and former president of the Commonwealth Electrical Workers Union. Did I get it right? Okay, good.
Good night, all. Good night. With protocol being established, for those who may not know me, my name is Leslie Lightbourne. I've been in top labor leadership with the Grand Bahama Power Company, a union called the Commonwealth Electrical Workers Union. I've been a president for 6 years, vice president for 6 years, secretary for 2 years, 14 years, all to run concurrent. And now I just sit on the board as a council member trying to guide the younger people into what we try to do. Are labor unions relevant today? I would have to beg to differ with Mr. Harcourt Brown. He knows me very well. I've sat in his office many a times. And it always seemed as if, yes, governments seem to be on our side, but when we sit down with multi-millionaire corporations, things sort of change or turn around. And then, yes, we put people in place to represent us in the House of Assembly. And then what they do? There are rules they have to follow. What we're expecting is that we free. But are we free? No, we ain't free. I'll just give you a little story. The president I took after, who I took succession from, Mr. Obed Pinder, he was one of the first presidents in our union. And him and the CEO crossed heads, they bucked shoulders. We went to war, we went to Nassau, we did everything. We was ready to shut Freeport down. After tiresome nights and running out of strategies, we sort of gave up the ghost. But he was terminated after 40 years of service. Then the fight continues. During my time in the labor movement, I always felt as if, why would a company do certain things? But then when I look good, we have our own members doing foolishness. You're supposed to be to work at 8, be there quarter to 8. Don't come there 8:30, different set of times, and then when you get right up, you come into the union. Real unioning a fight for foolishness. We fight for the rights of people. Okay? I went to a lot of training, and there was something that stuck with me. There's this program, well, it's not really a program, but it's called the Ombudsman System. Now, this system, I'll read it quickly for you. But this system basically speaks to a private or different entity from government, union, and company. But they sit down with the parties involved, and they bring a ruling to whatever they feel, according to the law, is correct and should be paid. A company can get rid of you anytime. That's their right. But if they wake up on the wrong side of the bed and they just ain't feeling you today and let you go, there should be penalties for that. You know, we have female workers now, the boss trying to hit on you and you ain't for that, and then, oh, get rid of her. There should be rules and laws and stuff like that. This ombudsman, I'll give you a brief definition of what it is. An ombudsman is an official who investigates and resolves complaints, particularly against government agencies, but also against private agencies, entities, or institutions. They are typically impartial and independent, acting as a neutral mediator or investigator. Ombudsmen often aim to identify the system issues, the problems, checking the law, and leading poor service to a rightful service. And I would like to see something like that happen in today's time. So Maybe the apartments ain't got to be over flooded. If you go there, you get your 2 conciliation meetings, and then bye-bye. That's the end of that. And then if you don't have the right person fighting for you, that's why we have to educate ourselves, know the law. Be able to tell the company you know the law. You tell them certain things, you get things resolved on your own. So I'd encourage any young leader out there today that's in labor or aspiring to be a labor leader. You have your trade union congress, you have your national congress of trade union. Get involved or get in partial with these guys. Those are 2 major entities, labor entities that we have in the Bahamas. And I'd like to see one day that become one entity. You know, Labor Day March, we have every Labor Day. I'd like to see all unions have one march and work together. I'm just going to read a little from Mr. Folks, who will be celebrating this day on Friday. In January 1958, as president of the BFL, he led the general strike, which resulted in a major constitutional and labor reform. It was in 1957 that the taxi union, under the leadership of Sir Clifford Darling, blocked all traffic to and from Nassau International Airport in an attempt to halt the government of the day from granting to the white tour companies the exclusive franchise to operate transportation services between the new Nassau International Airport and the city. Now, I don't know if that's happening still today, but we have major companies, but it's Bahamian, so I have no problem with that. In 1958, Sir Clifford determined that the efforts of the taxi cab union to satisfactorily resolve the matter were not meeting with success, and he contacted Sir Randall, who at the time was the president of the Bahamas Federation of Labor, which was the umbrella union for the several craft and trade unions that existed. Sir Randall responded with urgency that the situation required at a meeting of the Bahamas Federation of Labor, presented a motion that stated to the BFL should call a general strike to aid the taxi union and to dramatize the plight of all Bahamians for greater dignity and self-respect on the job site through decent wages and better working conditions. This motion was carried unanimously. Do we have that fortitude today? Can we be Sir Ronald Folks, that type of leadership? Can we get that today? We need to look at ourselves, starting with me. Are we determined to fight for our brothers and sisters? I believe a change will come as it pertains to labor. Our government is doing a great job with labor as far as reforms and everything. And like Mr. Harker Brown said, I got to check out that website. I think that we can make a difference. We can make changes if we want to. Let's not go into things for ourselves. Someone give you a couple of dollars, you ain't checking no more. Everybody know how they pot boil. So we just say, let's fight for our brothers and sisters. And congratulations to Mr. Keith Barr, because I am actually really shocked that he could do such a good job writing a book. How come we never think of that? How much labor leaders I gone through? This man write a book about us. He need to be commended and applauded for that, such great success. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your night.
You started on fire, but then you calmed down and said some things that I really like. Two things that you said that are important for employees. One is that if you have a contract with an employer, you should respect that contract because you signed it, and those things shouldn't be breached, whether it's time and other things. And the second thing that you said is really, really important, is that as employees, we should always know the laws and what we're entitled to, and so that the employer doesn't take advantage of us and vice versa. And I agree, if those two things are being done by employees, the union should fight, like you say, fight to the end, because you have the perfect employee that you want. He's following the rules, and he knows the rules. So good job on that. And good point on Keith, too, because I wasn't aware that Keith was writing the book either. I had to come from Nassau to find that out. So, excellent. A little sad news. Mr. John Ingram sends his apologies as he had an untimely death in his family. So we pray that he and his family find comfort by trusting in the Lord during this difficult time. So we'll move on to the next speaker, who is Mr. Rudolph Stubbs, former Vice President and Area Vice President of the Customs Union. And he will bring brief remarks on the relevancy of unions today.
A pleasant good evening to everybody. Yes, standing on the established protocol, it's good to also see some legendary faces here in the trade union movement, you know. And the former director, he left, or Mr. Brown? I don't see him there. Oh, he's in the back. Okay, yeah. You know, and these men and women known in the past and still who are around today are trailblazers and legendary persons in the trade union movement. And one of the things that when I reflect about myself, I remember as a boy, because I was born in 1958 in New Providence, and as a boy, during the era of Sir Randall Fox, he used to have those street meetings in the Grove where he was mobilizing workers here in the country about the importance of their rights and how to stand in solidarity. And that caught my attention. And when I graduated from high school in 1975, Aaron Bailey, and I went to COB to study biology with chemistry to become a lab technician in the hospital. And then I changed my mind. And I went and I started working at City Meat Market in New Providence. And I spent 9.5 years there. And during my last year, 1984, I had made an application to the Bahamas government to join the public service. And at Christmas, my employer at Bahamas Supermarkets Limited decided that they were going to circumvent our Christmas bonus for the workers at the Cable Beach Sydney Market food store. And at that store at that time, I was the junior assistant manager, responsible for receiving and all these other stuff, and the cashes and all of that. And so at the meeting we had in the storeroom, at the shop, at the store, he said that there was pilfering going on in the store, so therefore we had forfeited our Christmas bonus. And I listened to them, and then I said, I took the boldness to stand up and say, Mr. President, I hate to disagree with you. I said, I work with these men and women here in this food store, you understand? And I've never seen no pilfering going on in here. Okay, I work 6 to almost 7 days a week, because one day I had just a half day off. And we had an internal furnace in the store, so there was nothing going out the back door. I was responsible for everything coming in the back door. You understand? So I said, you think he's trying to label me? If you understand where I'm going, right? And so after the meeting, the boss said to me, Mr. Stubbs, you're the problem. I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, you're the problem. Just because I stood up for the workers. You know what I'm saying? And after that, they made provisions to try to terminate me. And I went to the labor board for the very first time, you know, and I left the establishment. And in February of 1985, I got a call to be hired at Bahamas Customs. And I went into training and everything. And in August of 1985, after graduating from training and everything, they tell me, you're a part of the 14 that's going to Grand Bahama. And so that's how I came here to Grand Bahama. You understand? And so coming here to Grand Bahama as a young trainee customs officer, and the following year, they selected me to become a shop steward in 1986 for the Bahamas Public Services Union, because I was a member of the union from 1985. And so I got involved in the trade union movement, and I saw the value of representation and how to fight for the rights of workers. And with that endeavor, I was always on the front line throughout the labor movement here on Grand Bahama. When it came to the nurses' issues, the doctors' issues, the post office issue downtown, even education. I aligned myself with all the movers in the trade union movement. You understand? Even the Grand Bahama Taxi Union, I aligned myself with them. You understand? So that I can get a good concept and understanding of the value of representation of the workers here on Grand Bahama. And then one of the things too that I also did was I availed myself of attending the Caribbean Public Service Association meetings and conferences throughout the Caribbean. Every year we went during the summer period to these various different islands. And that I established a camaraderie with various different trade unions, movers and shakers who stood up for justice. And that's the key word that keep embedded in me. Justice. Because workers needed justice. Even though you try to form a good relationship with your employer or the government, yet still they've tried to find a way to circumvent justice. And that was a major factor that all unions were being faced with. And so we had to fight. We bound ourselves together here on Grand Bahama, and we became a force to reckon with. And that's why we were able to go and stand with those men there at Container Port when they first had their first demonstration. We stood with them, you understand? Even though they end up getting sabotaged by the politicians who were siding with the employer to make changes at that establishment. And so today they still fight, you understand? Because it gives you the relevance that workers need their rights to be protected. And so therefore, unions are very, very relevant because it's your constitutional right to organize yourself so that you can make sure that you have a voice and you have shoulders to stand on and to accomplish the things in life that you ought to accomplish rather than just work as a slave. You understand? And so I figured that God embedded these thoughts and attributes within the human race so that we can always be able to fight for justice and equality. And so I would say tonight, Brother Barr, when you called me a few years ago and you said, you want to do an interview with me, and I smiled to myself, I said, Brother Barr wants to do an interview with me. So I went, and we had a good time. We talked, and I gave him a lot of information. And so to see the success that he would have accomplished since his endeavor in moving forward, you understand? And now he has a book that is being launched today. So I want to say to you, Mr. Barr, congratulations, sir. You have done well. I've watched you throughout the educational field. You are also a trailblazer. And you've been, I think you were a principal the last time, right? Yeah. You understand? So, yeah. So you made some good accomplishments in life. And so I would say to, just like how Leslie said, to every former trade unionists continue to press forward the movement because it is relevant in this country and we need it. And I want to say to all working Bahamians, young and old, happy Labor Day. It's coming. Stand in solidarity forever and we will be successful. Thank you so much.
You have the right job. I'll tell you why. Your story started off with someone facing adversity, but because you're so resilient, you overcame and excelled. So excellent. We need you in the union. Excellent. Moving right along. We'll now have Mr. Avril Mortimer, former branch chairman and former area vice president of the Northern Bahamas Union of Teachers. He will also present on the relevancy of unions in the Bahamas. Mr. Avril Mortimer.
Two things I'd like to share with you. I came to Guatemala in 1975, and very rarely have I heard my name pronounced properly or spelled properly. My name is Averell. The ILL is a female. And I've had to approach the PS of the Ministry of Education several years ago to ask if I could come up there and prove that I am a male, because all of the correspondence was Miss Avril Mortimer. A trivia question. How many persons in here believe that the government allows a child in the Bahamas to have two parents of the same sex? I don't see any hands. That is in fact true. And it's in the labor law. I think the amendment in 2000. It says, two persons who are in a relationship of some permanence and who agree to take care of the child is considered a parent. And that is for medical leave. If your child is ill, now people look at that and say, "Whoa, he didn't know that." I said, "But what if my brother lives with me? He's considered a parent of my child. You can take it however you want." Okay? Now, greetings to all. The labor unions in the Bahamas have been a significant part in the development of the modern Bahamas. The Bahamian trade unions movement has a rich and colorful history, evolving from the early struggles to a key role in advocating workers' rights and the Bahamas' independence in '73. There are now several umbrella unions, far too many, operating today, whose individual union members represent workers across the range of industries in the Bahamas. The majority of unions in the Bahamas are considered craft unions and fall under the umbrella organizations of which they may or may not belong. Why are teachers, doctors, and nurses under umbrella unions still considered not professionals, but they are part of craft unions? Now, I confirm that teachers under government are not considered professionals. This was, I think, under Prime Minister Ingram. I asked, we were looking at parity at the time. A customs officer with similar qualifications as the teacher had a starting salary $8,000 more than the teacher. And I asked the question, why was that? The permanent secretary of the Ministry of Education said that's because they are professionals. So I got angry, disrupted the meeting, and left. Came back. Oh, by the way, union training tells you only get angry on purpose. Came back, and the Minister of Finance said what she really meant was that teachers don't contribute to the GDP. I said, well, a few expletives. We contribute 100% to the GDP because we train the workforce. But that's how government thinks of teachers. The trade unions in the Bahamas have faced their share of challenges. One being the 1981 teacher strike. As far as I am aware, the longest strike in the Bahamas, more than 3 weeks. Now, as a young teacher back then, I always asked the question, why in the world would they want to go to strike in January and we just get paid in the middle of December? And we ain't getting no paycheck till the end of January. But when I thought about it, I said, they were dead serious. Now, the chairman of the branch at that time was Errol Bodie. The secretary was Carly Burrows, now Dr. Carly Kelly. But she was the person that gave out all the information all over Grand Bahama to let people know what we were about. So when we went on picket line on D-Day, most people went home not hungry. All the unions came by and fed the picketers all over Grand Bahama. Now, I can't speak for Nassau, but they had 3 meals a day. And we had 3 shifts, morning, afternoon, and closing time. The public understood what we were about. And I took that, I took that meaning when I took over the BUT on Grand Bahama. If people understand, they wouldn't cause any difficulties. The police were our friends on Grand Bahama. They used to say, well, don't take up the whole road. Stay on the left side. But they know we supported them. As a matter of fact, they have me to thank for their career path, because they adopted the BUT's career path and made it their own. And to this day, a sergeant on the police force earns more money than a school principal. And he ain't wearing khaki yet. So what you think about the fellas with them 3, I don't know what they call them, studs? When last you heard the police complain about salary? My point. Well, shortly after the strike, I became chairman of the branch then. We were semi-independent. And I served for 12 plus consecutive years without ever being opposed in an election. I figured that nobody wanted the job. Now, I was never paid a salary. I had to operate the union on $1 per member per month. We started off with 300, and that included having an office and a secretary in the office on $300 a month. And thanks to the support of teachers, we were able to do that. I hardly ever ranted and raved, like jumping up on the table. I never was disrespectful to a school administrator or government or education official. I never ever called a minister of government by their first name, even though I may know them personally. because our fight is not with them. Our fight is with their office. I remember having an argument. Well, some persons who may have studied at UWI would know Rex Nettleford. He became Chancellor of UE. But he's actually a professional dancer. And we used to call him Sexy Rexy. But one of his advice in one of my trainings, he said, know that person across the table from you. Don't go in there blind. Know that person across from you. And I realized that Hubert Ingram will bark at you. And he looks for your reaction. And he started doing that. And I said, you know something, Mr. Ingram? You're the best PLP Prime Minister the FNM ever had. And he was livid. So I was able to get him angry. If I could get you angry, I got control. The next meeting, I missed the meeting. Where that fella from Grand Bahama. So you know. But union leaders today need a paradigm shift. We are playing the same old things we did in the 19th century. Unnecessary work stoppages. We need to be more financially and economically savvy. We haven't fully recovered from the hurricanes. My first hurricane here was 99, Hurricane Floyd. Number 6 was Dorian, then the pandemic. But yet you now have unions because the politicians saying we aren't doing well. So, and then they, what they call it now? Livable wage is now the narrative. As a student of economics, I disagree with that. Some people want a minimum wage to be $500 a week. I said, you mean as an employer, I would have to pay somebody $500 a week and they can't spell BJC? Something wrong with that picture. But two things can happen. Either they can start laying off workers, or two, they can increase prices to recover costs. One increases inflation, one increases unemployment. Is that a medium that we want? Now we have to face Trumponomics. Student visa stoppage, increased tariffs, travel restrictions. This is a financially dangerous situation. I just heard on the news the other day, Coca-Cola is leaving the United States because he increased the tariff on aluminum to 50%. The tariff is a tax on the consumer. But somebody need to let him know that. But it's going to hurt us in the long run. What unions need to seek also now are non-monetary benefits. It don't have to be a cash benefit. Well, give me some study time. Give me 4 years off and I guarantee I still have a job when I get back. Or better yet, give me the scholarship. Let's look at several years ago, Chrysler Corporation. Chrysler Corporation was in financial trouble and was about to collapse. They got some money, their government gave them some money for bailout, but the UAW, United Auto Workers, met with Chrysler and they worked out something so that the United Auto Workers could save their jobs. And you're talking about thousands of jobs. But because of that connection or that union or that collaboration, Chrysler was able to pay off that government loan years ahead of time, and Chrysler became a successful auto manufacturer. The same thing happened with Avis, rent-a-car. Avis was taken over by its employees because it was failing. So who can pilfer from their own self? They have a stake. And you know what Avis' motto was back then? To be number one. Simple. And they became number one. So we need union leaders who have some economic savvy. Many union leaders in the Bahamas, I've tested it out myself, don't have a clue as to what GNP means, GDP, cost plus inflation, or heavens, depreciation, or even net worth. I asked, what's the net worth of your union? Nobody can answer me. So, also I guess that would have been about 20 years ago, a union received $50,000 back from the insurance company because they didn't have enough claims. It was suggested to the union, put that money in a medical fund, and every successive refund you get, do the same thing. Because in 10, 20, 30 years, your union members will have to pay zero for medical insurance for the rest of their life. And it was estimated that today, 2025, that fund would be worth over $6 million. I know in the BUT, we never paid more than $100,000 to anybody in medical expenses. And one year we had 4 cancer cases. And we still got $75,000 back from the insurance company. Many of you may know this. A union promises retired members to give them $1,000. But they didn't realize that their union could not afford that. So now you have many, many cases before the courts, and they really can't win their case, but it's going to cost that same union over $2 million in settlements. So that's the narrow thinking of their leader. Are unions in the Bahamas relevant? The jury could still be out on that. And it depends on who you ask. They say fishermen don't call their fish stink. Well, all union leaders can say unions are relevant. But I was told during the first AGM of Beckeroo that I was the instigator in them forming. Because Prime Minister Ingram gave teachers a $230+ per month increase in salary, unprecedented in the history of the Bahamas. And you know how I got to him? His wife was a teacher. I said, but you got to sleep with her, But not only that, he agreed to bring parity to teachers' pay. But unluckily, he lost the next election. But he already spoken to the new prime minister to say this is what we agreed to off the table. Lump sum increase in salary, lump sum increase in salary, till we become parity. Because the customs officer's salary was almost at the top scale of a teacher's salary, $8,000. But again, the current president at that time saw fit not to deal with it, and that's all they got, the lump sum. And that bothers me too. A lot of union members prefer the lump sum over increase in salary. And 90% of that lump sum going to Florida. Bahamas have book full. There you get that. So, I think they are, personally. But again, I believe there should be a paradigm shift. And we need to train them. I remember I was at a umbrella union meeting. 2 people with law degrees in the room and don't understand parliamentary procedure. I made a person in that room leader. 30 years later, he's still leader. That's too long. So, it's just that a lot of people don't like change because it's difficult. And in conclusion, unions in the Bahamas, they will still face many challenges, such as declining membership, limited resources. However, they still play an important role in promoting rights and the important role of the interest of the welfare of the workers and their family. And as the Bahamas grows, we must grow also. And we must change to adapt. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Averill Mortimer. Yes. Two quick points, and that was, I think that if you give a union, their union members provide all this money for these unions, like you say, you should know what net income is. You should be fiscally responsible because you're basically running a company. It's just not free money, and that is a very good point. And another good point you made was that if the company is going down through no fault of its own, based on economics, based on, say, Trumpism, the union needs to be the linchpin to solve that, to save jobs. So, Mr. Barr's pushing me on, and in the essence of time, and these are two beautiful ladies, and I'm sorry to say this, but he said, whatever you do, cover everything you can in the shortest period of time. So the next speaker is Miss Danica Martin, Area Vice President. She's not here, so okay, so we can go right on to Mistress Vanola Says Nelson, Vice President for the Bahamas Educators, Consulates, and Allied Workers Union. Becca Wu will briefly speak on the relevancy of unions in the Bahamas.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night, everyone. I am honored to stand on the same stage of these great unionists that have come before me. This evening, I stand before you to address the question that remains at the heart of modern labor discussions. Are trade unions still relevant, and are they still needed? To answer this, we must first understand the role of trade unions that trade unions have played. Historically, unions have been the bedrock of workers' rights. They fought for fair wages, safe working conditions, reasonable working hours, and protection from exploitation. Many of the labor protections we take for granted today, weekends, overtime pay, and workplace safety standards, were not gifted by employers, but won on the tireless efforts of organized workers. But what about today? In a world driven by technology, remote work, and globalized markets, are unions outdated? The answer is no. Trade unions are not obsolete. They are evolving, and they are still very much needed. While the workplace has changed, the challenges workers face remain all too familiar. Wage stagnation, job insecurity, unsafe conditions in many areas, many industries, and the erosion of benefits are modern realities. And now, workers also face new threats. Automation, replacing jobs, gig work like temporary workers, and we see that in Grand Bahama, with no benefits, and algorithms dictating productivity and pay. In such an environment, who stands with the workers? Who negotiates on behalf of the many when corporations and employers grow even more powerful? Trade unions do. They provide a collective voice in an era when individual workers can feel powerless and even bullied. They advocate for fairness, equity, and dignity on the job, regardless of whether the workplace is an office, a classroom, outside, or on a digital platform. To remain relevant unions must continue to adapt, engaging young workers, embracing new technology, and being agile in strategy. But their purpose remains unchanged: to protect the rights and livelihoods of working people. So, are trade unions still relevant? Absolutely. And are they still needed? Now more than ever. Solidarity forever. Thank you.
Thank you. A plus for being concise, precise, and on point. And we heard you. More than relevant. And the final remarks on the relevancy of unions in the Bahamas today will be presented by Mr. Lionel Morley, former Hotel Union President.
Thank you. Good night and good afternoon to everybody. I said good afternoon to everybody. Y'all even eat yet and y'all already gone. What's going on? I just want to take this moment and this opportunity to give a pause for the men and women who have passed, whose shoulders I stand on, and many of you stand on here today. Just a brief moment of silence. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, again. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to stand here on my most special and important subject, trade unionists. Just to help you understand better, I came from the hotel industry as a young man in the engineering and housekeeping department. I saw many disadvantages. I've saw and seen the fight of workers, even betrayed the existence of trade unions. I've heard a lot of the speakers tonight, and to a large extent, 70% of them, I completely agree. I completely agree. But you know, when trade unionists are like preachers, you don't give them mics. The stories, there's too many stories to tell. But I'll give you a little history on the union I came from. I'm from the Hotel Workers Union, former vice president. I see I've been promoted in the brochure. And former president of Bahamas Marine Dock and Construction Union. I've served in those capacities for many years. I began my voyage in the trade union movement at the very tender age of 22. As many moons ago. I was seen then as a threat to the old oligarchs who, said, they tried to discourage me to some extent, and because of the fight, the passion, and the sensitivity to the subject, I was motivated and encouraged to push through. Hotel Union is a private sector union, quite different from the public sector. When the public sector could pull the arms of the ministers and the governments and all these different things, we don't have such a privilege. We don't get that privilege. We have to tear down some things and beat up some people and say some very unwelcoming stuff. And so it's a little different for us. But the hotel union was birthed out of a struggle where foreign workers in the day came into the country, the working condition was very deplorable. Their salaries was twice as much as the Bahamian worker. We made $3 an hour, they made $6 an hour. Out of that, we had a few presidents, Bartholomew Bastian, as Mr. Harcourt Brown indicated, Thomas Bastian, the late Thomas Bastian, the late Patrick Bain, and the likes, who've pushed and advocate and fought for better working conditions for the workers. In 1973, after the revolution, the Burma Road riot, they were able to come to an undertaking of something that is called a Memorandum of Understanding. In that same year, the labor laws were enacted. We had the Truck Act, the Fair Labor Standard Act. We also had something called the Employment Act and the Industrial Relation Act. That is the act that gives the workers the ability to organize and to seek better working conditions. That act exists today. Need certain amendments, and I believe we are, with the right nucleus of trade unions that currently exist, we can push to create greater strength for the trade union movement. But the Reverend take a page out of my book a little earlier, and so I'll have to move straight to my next point. Is union relevant? Unions, if the NBA players, the NFL players, most professionals agree that they need union who make millions and billions of dollars, what do you think about the little man with all of the inflation, with the new tariff, everything that is going around, the hurricane, Dorian, where workers' rights were stripped from them, used as an excuse? What do you think about that, about them? These NBA players, some of them make $45,000 per game. They have unions. NFL players have unions. The employers have unions. You may ask, who's the union that represents the employers? And I will attempt to answer that for you. It's the Employers Federation. It is the Employers Association who negotiates for all of the hotels. And it is the Chamber of Commerce. They are all unions. And they collaborate, they get together, make policies. If you go from one company to the next, all of the policies mimics each other. Why is that? Because these people engage with each other, they collaborate on what, how, when, and who, and they create policies that sometimes are not in the best interest of workers. Sadly today, the relevance of union is in question. The relevancy of unions are in question. Why? We have companies that engage in a lot of tactics. For instance, the shipyard would lay off any amount of workers 1 month, brag about their new expansion. I guess we don't see nothing wrong with you laying off our workers and then you boast about your $100 million expansion. We see nothing wrong with that. We bring in a bunch of foreign laborers, we give them car, we accommodate them, we feed them, and our workers today are scrapping for days in a place that they boast of the biggest profits, margins you can think about. And so, is union relevant? Unions today are more relevant, like my sister say over there, more so now than ever. You go in the food store, you talk to the workers sometimes, because that's what I like to do. I enjoy that. And even though I see at times management, they know who I am. But I tell them, don't worry about them. Just call me if you need me. I asked them, what time you came to work? They says, I came at 12. I said, what time you get off? I supposed to get off at 9. And sometimes, I just I stay back a little bit and watch and see if these people getting off at 9, because they don't always tell you the stories. Sometimes 10:30, 11 o'clock, these people just coming out of the workplace. I say, do you get overtime? No. They say, we doing that on our own because the management did not authorize the overtime. And so it is critical that union leaders put aside their personalities, their political agenda, personal agenda, for the good of the common man. Because too often, some of us who claim to be union leaders, we just do not have it. We simply do not have it. We are too busy trying to rise to the top rather than trying to make sure that the working class, somebody could sleep at peace at night and families could sustain themselves as a result of our efforts. We don't have the struggle of yesterday. We should have more educated, more brighter, more focused. I'm not sure about the passion that existed then. I don't know where it went. I don't know how all of a sudden it's gone. But we have work ahead of us, people. We must come together to make sure that the next generation is not lost. And I'd like to comment or compliment Mr. Barr, who didn't wait like some of us for somebody to tell his story. He put it in the book. He put it in the book so the next generation will have something. He put it in the book like Sir Clifford Darling. He put it in the book like Sir Randall Folk, who is the father of labor, who once tell us that labor, unite or perish. I thank you for your time. I wish I had more to offer, and God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Morley. And don't shortchange yourself. You offered a lot in that short period of time. It was excellent, and you provided facts. Please give all the speakers a big round of applause for the excellent and informative speeches they gave. They were extremely well done, even with the time limit. This is the most important part of the launch, but I'm going to be very short because I've been commanded, demanded, and everything else. So I'd just like to say a few short words on Keith, because he is the reason why we're here today and his book launch. Keith and I met 37 years ago in 1988 while attending Elmira College in New York. Keith has the qualities of a successful leader. He's a great communicator, very confident, passionate about ventures he undertakes, like this writing of the book and launch tonight. And he's empathetic to all persons, especially those who he works with. Finally, he is resilient. So it's only logical with these qualities that Keith is naturally a man for the people. He's genuinely concerned about the quality of life they lead. And therefore, it's no surprise that Keith would write a book on trade unions, workers' organization, who represent the rights of workers, especially in the education field. Inspired by his 40 years of passionate and dedicated service in the Bahamas Ministry of Education, most of which was in the island of Grand Bahama, in addition to working with trade unionists, colleagues who are members of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, the Bahamas Public Service Union, the Bahamas Educator Managerial Union, our author Keith acquired an appreciation for workers' rights in every form. This book investigates and discusses the role of labor movement played on the history-shifting event recognized as Majority Rule Day. It further explores the advancement this movement had on national development, the country's economy over the past 60 years, and the national focus on employment creation. The observance of the annual Labor Day holiday and its rightful focus on our nation's powerful and resourceful workforce presents a timely opportunity to launch this book. Hence, this is why we are here today on this historic time for the labor movement in the Bahamas. So finally, I'd like to say, I am honored and humbled that Keith asked me to participate on this noteworthy occasion. I'm equally happy to join his family, his friends, education, and union colleagues as we all share with pride the launch of Keith's book that chronicles the labor movement in our beloved country. I am looking forward to everyone's sincere and enthusiastic support tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Keith Warren Barr.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll be short. Thank you. Thank you very much. In 2015, at St. George's High School, sitting in the office, I answered an email that went out to all government department heads. And the email was asking for heads of department to study in the United Nations programs in different fields, different sectors, economics, and so on. And this one was industrial and employment relationship. And it appealed to me because of my English background. And I applied. I sent the information in. That was 2015. 2016, it took a year for that organization to approve my application and accepted me. And I ended up pursuing a master's degree in industrial and employment relationship at the University of Turin in Turin, Italy, under the auspices of the International Labor Organization. And this is how this all started. There were 37 of us in the cohort from all over the world. And what really appealed to me about the program was that it was in English. And I was able to, I had to do the residency in Italy. So program being in English and me flying to Italy and spending 4 months there was a given. That all led to writing this book, understanding more about workers' organizations and unions, and getting involved. 95% of us here in this room right now are connected because we are in or was in an employment relationship. And that's what makes unions and workers' organizations so appealing to me. You've heard so much about union organizations and what they mean and the upcoming Labor Day that I'm not going to say another word further about it. All right? Purchase a book, enjoy the food, and thank you very much for coming out. I really appreciate it. You could have been doing all kinds of things tonight, but you choose to come out. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dennis.
My pleasure. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, food and drinks are served. And please do not leave without Keith signing your book. This is a momentous occasion. You don't want to miss it. So as you purchase your book, ensure that Keith signs it. Thank you.
Livingston,
Josiah the JP.
hey mine Livingston,
Josiah the JP.
I and I hear la la la,
Josiah the JP.
I and I hear la la la.
Josiah the JP.
Don't mind Livingston,
Josiah the JP.
don't mind Livingston,
Josiah the JP.
I and I hear la la la,
Josiah the JP.
I and I hear la la la.
Josiah the JP.
Going down Bayman Road, going down Bayman Road, going down Bayman Road. I can't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Going down Harrow Road, going down Robinson Road, Going down Carmichael Road, I can't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Don't lick nobody. Bullfrog dressed up in soldier clothes went to the river just to shoot some crows. Crows smell fire and they all fly away, Lord. Bullfrog get vexed and he cry all day.
Born in 1906, said this country I must fix. Married a lady looked so fine, named Lady Caroline. 1936, he entered Bahamian politics. Said my people is in a tight, I must fight for human rights. He was a freedom fighter. Oh, he was kind of big in structure. The first Bahamian governor.